I, CA Dinesh Jain, welcomes you all on behalf of CIRC of ICI and also on behalf of Professional Skill Engagement Committee of ICI and Mansoor branch of CIRC of ICI. Welcome all the participants in today's webcast on navigating change mindset for chartered accountants. I welcome to today's resources person and very charming chartered accountant, young, dynamic CA Nakul Arora ji and the event members from the Mansoor branch of CIRC of the ICI and other presents over here. I now request our CA Arpit Nagar from Mansoor branch to introduce the speaker. CA Arpit Nagar.
Good afternoon, all. It's my pleasure to introduce our honorable speaker, Sir Shri C.A. Nakulji Arora. C.A. Nakulji Arora isn't just a chartered accountant, he is a leader, a communicator, and a highly sought after educator in the field of finance. His impressive credentials speak volumes. A member of the prestigious Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, C.A. Nakulji Arora boasts rigorous training in accounting, auditing, taxation, and financial management, even earning exemptions in strategic financial management, a testament to his exceptional aptitude and dedication. But CA Nakulji Arora's expertise extends far beyond the theoretical. He is a highly accomplished speaker, having delivered over 600 sessions on technical topics ranging from professional standards and taxation to business analytics. He is equally adept at communicating soft skills, having conducted more than 350 sessions on interpersonal communication and leadership, showcasing his ability to connect with audiences on both a technical and personal level. His leadership capabilities are equally impressive. As a founder and managing partner of his own firm of chartered accountants, he has not only built a successful business but also actively contributes to the broader accounting community by leading ICI conferences and debate groups. This demonstrates his commitment to fostering professional growth and intellectual discourse within his field. CA Nakulji Arora's experience isn't confined to the boardroom or lecturer hall. He has worked with a diverse range of prominent organizations, including Barco, Visit Health, Policy Bazaar, One Card, Sevens, Saxo Bank, Hilton Group, Saxo, Rockwell, Mossex, and Max Life, showcasing his adaptability and expertise across various sectors. His extensive speaking engagement across India on topics like compliance with technical and professional standards, ethical standards, and quality control, and audit documentation further highlight his deep understanding and commitment to excellence. Finally, CA Nakulji Arora's dedication to education is evident in his numerous contributions to online platforms, sharing his knowledge and expertise freely, helping to uplift the accounting profession. He is not just imparting knowledge, he is fostering a growth mindset in his audience. Thank you, sir, and welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. So, Arviji, can I begin? So, Dinesh, sir, Chairman, sir, do I have your permission to begin?
Surely, sir.
Please start.
Can...
Sir,
Yes,
please
sir.
start.
Nakul ji, आप start करें मार्गदर्शन दीजिए.
Thank you very much. I extend my warm regards to today's session organizing Professional Skills Enrichment Committee. In the presence, we have Dr. Sambit Kumar Mishra ji. He is the secretary of the committee and one of the most hardworking individuals that I've met in ICI so far. I extend my regards to the chairperson and, of course, the vice chairperson of the committee. And my warmest regards to the Mandsaur branch, CA Dinesh Jain ji, the chairman, CA Rajesh Mandwaria ji, the vice chairman, Vikas Bhandari ji, the secretary, Nayan Jain, CA Virendra Kumar Jain, and of course Arpit Nagar ji for his warm introduction. And I also see some other faces on the panel, which is CA Ankit Shrimal ji, CA we have Arpit Mehra, Vishwas Shrimal and Nitin Devlani. So thank you so much for all of you for being on the panel. Actually, being on the panel on such sessions makes me feel that I'm not alone in the room. and I'm not talking to a computer. So thank you so much. Your turned on screens actually give me a lot of motivation to keep on going on, and I can see some faces engaged. Any which ways, today's topic is very least look after, but I think one of the most important things to look for in the current scenario. So when we talk about navigating change, and when I say agile mindset, there are a lot of things that come to mind when I talk to my peers about that. What exactly has changed? So people do understand that there is a lot of globalization in progress. There is a lot of requirements for CAs to work towards sustainability, work towards environment, and then there is AI, which is machine learning, and some more tools of automation. My major concern here is and why we should discuss this in depth today is not all the topics that you already know, but one of the things that has changed, and it is evidence, not just with me and other professionals, but all of the CAs that I've talked to recently, is the expectation of the client has changed drastically. So the accounting profession is transforming at an unprecedented pace. The client is expecting a very low turnaround time. So the moment he is giving you a question, he is expecting an answer. The moment he is giving a problem in front of you, there is an expectation that the solution will be given at least in the same day itself. And why is the client not supposed to look for it? Because the tools have grown so much. The turnaround times of government have reduced drastically in the last few years. So the expectation of the client is far more justified than we agree. There's a lot of technological advancements. We'll discuss them as well. A lot of globalization. There is stricter regulations now, and increasing demand of clients that create a dynamic environment. It requires us to adapt and evolve accordingly. So today we'll explore how embracing an agile mindset can equip us not only to survive but thrive in this changing landscape. So today we're not listening to something that we require only to survive. We have to adapt this agile mindset so that we can grow in this fast pace. We will talk about the machine tools, we'll talk about softwares, but most importantly today we will be talking about the way of operating the office, the way we have to maintain our workflow. So initially, let me just introduce you to the agenda of today's session. So we will be talking about the core agile principles for accountants. What are the core agile principles for accounting professionals? And then we will talk about the agile tools and the techniques, and we will discuss some case studies and the practical applications of it. And of course, then we'll summarize it. A short, crisp, and a very dedicated and very precisely designed session to ensure that you do not get a lot of material, maybe, but you get very detailed information about the material that is being discussed today.
ये वाला
Your-
मेल है ना,
Yes, sir.
प्रधानमंत्री सड़क वालों को मेल कर दो। ये वाला जो डिफॉल्ट है ना, ईमेल से आता होगा ना मेल।
Right, whosoever has been asked to email, please do the email quickly. Thank you. So let's just continue from where we left. So there is some confusion regarding the adaptability quotient. That what people think is that sometimes when I meet a lot of chartered accountants, because I've been talking a lot about AI and I've been training on AI, some people of only on official platforms, of course. But there is a misconception that a CA is practicing in AI. No, no CA is practicing in AI as far as I remember. What we are doing is we are taking the assistant, the practice is being assisted by AI, machine learning, and other tools. But there is nothing like you have a core field of practicing into AI. So let us start with the core principles, the core agile principles for accountants. And to begin with, let's consider the forces which are reshaping our profession. Technological advancements like AI and automation are automating routine tasks. So, probably, if you say 10 years down the line, 10 years ago, it was not very, the tasks had to be done a lot more manually. I remember today, I don't know how the kids of today will understand this, but let's just remember from the time when even we people who are very young into the profession, when we started our internship, we had to file separately for accounting. So, example, we're using a software for accounting. Then, when we used to go for tax audit, we had to file a separate format, a separate software was being used. So, separately, it had to be filled manually. The chances of human error were increased. And I remember that after that, when we had to file for ROC return, we had to use a separate software altogether. But today, when we see, there is a lot of integration. So the softwares which are providing accounting softwares, sorry, the companies which are providing accounting softwares are integrating GST returns into it. They're integrating tax audits into it, or maybe the tax audit software is integrated to a level where a file can be copied and the entire accounting information can be punched into the tax audit without you moving a finger, or maybe moving less fingers than you had to move earlier. Apart from that, when we have to file the tax return, we can easily, take the information from the tax audit and push it into the ITR format, ITR softwares. And similarly, from the same software, you can file the ROC return as well. So the information integration and the automation of these regular tasks have reduced the possibility of human error, but we cannot lose to consider the fact that they have increased the probability and possibility of machine errors to a large extent. And because earlier, when we used to go for auditing, the chances of error were a little less because we had the possibility of making a maker and a checker concept. So every figure that is being punched is being checked at least thoroughly 3 or 4 times on different levels. But even in a CA firm today, when we're using automated softwares, so a minor mistake deeply embedded into the back layers of the information of the data can easily be mistaken today, and you might not even have an idea that the mistake was occurred, and it will not be caught. So what we need is new age accounting tools, new age auditing has to be done. We have to look for errors that can be missed due to software integration. And of course, the trail of auditing is extremely, it's not something which is obsolete, it is something which is more, more in demand and more in requirement. And we have to adapt our auditing methodologies according to the changing landscape. I do not consider anybody who's been practicing in whatever era of your job you might be in. You might be a professional in practice, you might be a professional into service or industry. It is relevant for all that you have to consider that these automated tasks require us to focus on higher value activities. Because the tasks are being automated, the requirement is to go on high value activities. Now, I hope that you have a question here in your mind, because we are on a one-way webcast. I have to ask the questions myself. The question which comes to mind is, what is higher value? What is high value addition activities? What is the what are the things that we can do high value addition in? Well, I think the strategic analysis and client advisory, maybe the strategic planning, data analysis. I know that there is a very huge query or maybe a concern for the professionals that even the data analysis is being done by the machines today. It's no problem. The machine will give you hard facts. The opinion has to be human. And that is what professionals are there for. Professionals have been dealing with facts years before other industries have stepped into facts. So today the professional is doing what he has been doing from ages. We have hard facts, we are hardwired, and still we give opinions. Why? Because sometimes whatever the machine might do, a human's opinion can be superior. And of course, a professional is a superior human in terms of their own profession, what tasks they have been doing from a long time. So let us move on to the next part. We'll discuss it in detail, but then globalization. The second issue is globalization. It is exposing us to diverse accounting standards. So the way of practicing accounts in maybe in Asia, South Asia, India, it is very different from the way accounting is practiced in Europe and how it is practiced in the Middle East, how accountants are treated and practiced in the United States. So there is a diversity, and the standardization is different. However, IFRS and Ind AS has definitely brought us on a similar pace. And in terms of environment and sustainability, we are on a similar page when we talk to international accountants, we talk to European accountants or Indian accountants, because we're using somewhat similar standards to practice our accounting. However, the international regulations, like many companies are going multinational today, many stocks are being listed on different stock exchanges. It is not true that today, if your company is formed in India, it cannot go and register on let's say Nasdaq or maybe American Stock Exchange. And there is also the carbon credit stock exchange in Europe or maybe in England. I'm not sure about the right location of it, but there is things that are on a global level. So of course there are international regulations that we have to comply with. So what does the globalization demand? The globalization demands a greater cross-cultural understanding. I'll give you an example. Yesterday or a day before yesterday, it was in the news that Japan is about to introduce a 4-day work week. And why do they want a 4-day work week? To increase the quality of life and fertility. Because, of course, Japan is suffering from a very old population and they want youngsters to come in, they want new births to happen. So they are giving a 4-day work week. Now, in India, I'm not criticizing or favoring any professional statement or unprofessional statement. Whatever you feel like, you're free to choose. I'm just giving you an example of the reaction. In Japan, the standard habit is to work hard. And if you're sleeping at work, it is considered to be positive that you're working so hard that you're taking a nap at work. But in India, that culture goes very different. Similarly, when Narayan Murthy said in India that you have to work for X number of hours per week, there was outrage and there were some people in support. So there is a mixed opinion about that in our country. But then some countries are thinking of making people less open to work, less exposed to work, because they are inherently working harder than it is good for them in a positive sense. So let us move to the second part, that how cultural differences happen. Now, if you go to the Korean side or if you go to the Asian habits, like if I have to address anybody on the panel, let's say I am addressing Dineshji or Sambitji, I will not use their name strictly, and I will either address them by calling them Dinesh sir or Sambit sir or Arpit sir, or maybe we use the term G or something, some respectful ideology or terminology is added after their name. But had I been in the United States of America, the terminology would have changed to the first name basis. And similarly, this is practiced in different countries. Even in Europe, the habit is to use the first name. But Asians have a sense of using respectful terms along with the name. So this is cross culture, and we have to be sensitive to the culture. So behave like. So if you are in Rome, dress like Romans, and that is something which is important in the coming scenario, and we have to make our mind agile to that. Now, along with the cross-cultural sensitivity that I've already said, that we have to be very, sensitive and very aware of how the cultures of two countries or two different economies are behaving. So, like if you're going into a developed economy, their problems are different. They are looking at bigger issues. But if you're going to a underdeveloped nation, so instead of going into a developing nation like ours, going into an underdeveloped nation can demand another kind of cross-cultural understanding. So to be adaptable to that. Now, one problem, which is not a problem, but one other issue of concern is the regulatory shifts. Yesterday, there was some news that some of the items of GST will attract 35%. Someday, you have the way you have to treat the place of supply is in a different way. Then there was some judgment about some items being imported from the UAE and how the place of supply will be judged. So the regulatory shift is so severe and so dynamic these days that you have to go into constant learning and adapt to stay just to stay compliant. So finally, the clients expect a faster turnaround from you, because they're not just expecting faster turnaround. The financial literacy has increased to a higher level, so they're looking for a more transparent communication. So earlier, you're doing your job, people used to trust and used to move on. But today, they are looking at more transparent communication, that whatever the status is, go to the status quo and inform. and you have to be proactive when it comes to solving their problems. This is expected by almost every other client today. Now, these challenges demand a new approach. So, what these new approach is are going to be? That is the question of the hour. So, let's talk about AI and automation. Now, when I say AI and automation, what does this AI and automation entail? Look, there were some limitations to the traditional approach, like the traditional approach was very rigid, inflexible. The feedback was delayed. But now, when we see that we are moving on to machine learning and automation, the expectations have grown multifold. How to respond to this change which is coming in terms of AI and, of course, in terms of automation? Look, we cannot say that we accept or do not accept the change. You don't have an option here. You have to accept this. This is the reality. This has happened and this is not changing, my dear friends. It will be there and it is here for the long, long run. Now, how do we have to, address this in a longer run? When the automation happens, you have to start getting compliant with it. Attend the right kind of trainings, invest into your automation tools, and start learning automation. So today we learn tools like some Kanban boards and Scrum boards and some approaches. How do we address such issues? So before we learn that, first let's learn that how is automation and AI revolutionizing the field. So earlier, let's give an example. There are only five chartered accountants in the market. Five accountants, not chartered accountants. Any qualification might matter. There are only five people that can, create a response to a certain notices. So earlier, it was okay to ask for 2 or 3 days to prepare the reply and go into the discussions. But when you talk about it today, the world has changed drastically. With the help of AI, your content is created in minutes, and you can actually work on that content later on in the day. And you can, of course, you can start polishing it for yourself. And I have seen two problems basically relating to automation. So cross professionals are trying to, demean somebody who's using AI. You cannot do that because that is the new age tool. It's not something which is new to you. It is acceptable. It is the use of technology is there. And then people do consider that what is the value of a professional? The value of a professional is that he is adding value above what the machine is providing him. So we have to understand that because the entire process is provided by the machine, it is our duty to communicate that in the language which the party or our client understands completely and understands with confidence. So our behavior has to exhibit confidence, and we must be able to display that with our practices, with our services. So what value addition are we giving on every stage is what matters in today's scenario. Moving on, what were the traditional ways? What methodologies were we using? I'm so glad you asked because that is what I have to assume. Look, our methodologies which we have used for accounting early on were like linear, sequential. Linear and sequential, let me explain you in detail. Let me just not just speak some alien words and go away. Earlier, like for example, a task had to be completed. For example, we have to respond to an income tax notice. We are representing a client in assessment. I'm not going to talk about new age services like investor meetings and everything. I'll talk about the old school income tax assessment and appeals and stuff like that. So years ago, when you had to prepare for a case, what you used to do is you used to first collect the documents, and until the document collection was completed, the formulation of the reply did not begin. Then the second step, this is linear or sequential. We are going in a sequence. There is a chronology that we used to follow. Then the replies were created, and then of course the meetings were attended, and then of course we used to go to uh, the officer, get more questions, prepare replies, and go back into response. Today, if you see, the replies are being asked quicker, they're sorted in lesser time, and the turnaround time required by the client is also very less. So maybe the information is coming in parts, but what is expected is you to be dynamic and consider creating your reply, preparing for your response, a different process than collecting the documents or attachments, and you prepare this in a more flexible approach. Now there's a problem because the sequence was missing, because the flexibility was missing. The feedback used to take a lot of time. So there was a feedback loop which was missing. How it was missing? For example, there is a problem that you have to address, and the problem will be in the reply, or maybe the intention how the client wants their case to be represented. But because they were already in the and you have collected the documents according to your intention, now the client is expecting that you reply in a certain intention, and after the entire process is completed, because the feedback was not there, at the end, when you discuss the reply with the client, he comes to know and addresses, no, no, this is not the exact direction we want to go in, this is the different direction. So you wasted the time, the time is over because the collection of documents and the reply and the background information is according to your intent of the reply. But what do you do now? Is you go back to collection and then again moving on to the new reply. But today, because we are doing it in a different loop, so the client discussions have increased. It is more like we are trying to be on the same page with the client. So that is why methods like waterfall or linear or sequential methodologies, I hope you understand them, because as chartered accountants we have all read and studied these methodologies for software formation and integration. And this is the methodology that we use in our regular day-to-day work. These methods are rigid, very prone to delay, and there is unforeseen challenges always happening here, because I said, because the discussions don't happen on a regular basis in this. So this is costly into reworking. The deadlines are missed into this, and today this approach is simply not sustainable. But what is sustainable? We'll come to that in some time. Now let's move on to the next task, which is globalization. We've already talked about globalization, that today there are diverse accounting standards and international regulations. Now, how does globalization, what expectations does globalization entail and bring with itself, that actually, what requirements are there from an accountant from because of globalization? So if I say that today we are in a globalized environment, there is a the world is one market altogether. So what requirements are there from a chartered accountant in a global market? It is different from what it was 5 years ago. It was different 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So when a chartered accountant has to cater a global environment, there are different requirements. Of course, the knowledge, cultural sensitivity, uh, and of course the knowledge of various regulations of different countries, and of course the demand and supply of the different borders and different cultures. So in this scenario, we have to understand that how our mindset is the most important tool that we will have, and our work ethic as well. The way we work is also important, because today it is not necessary that once you're working with an Indian company, it is only Indian regulations that you will deal with. You will deal with other regulations when the company chooses to be global. Unless you're choosing to stay where you are, no certainty can be pushed onto the amount of globalization and amount of tasks that will be globalized. All right. So when I just give me 1 second. All right. So yes, let's get to the important stuff now. So then, when I said, of course, there is a cross-cultural communication. So working with clients and colleagues from diverse backgrounds requires excellent communication and interpersonal skills. So when I say professional skills enrichment committee is doing wonderful, it is doing wonders in terms of the development, then yes, I definitely have a strong reasons to believe that it is true. It is more true than we accept. That today our entire practice requires more keen sensitivity towards interpersonal skills and of course your communication skills because you're dealing with different cultures. So there has to be a sensitivity to the cultural nuances. Like I told you, the way work life is seen in Japan is very different from the way work life is seen in States of America or maybe in India. So our work culture, our work ethics are very different. So we have to, of course, adjust our communication according to the cultural nuances. Effective communication is also crucial in building trust and ensuring there's a clear understanding across linguistic and cultural barriers. Means there's a barrier of language and culture. So how neutrally you have to communicate. Now the accounting profession has to also embrace technology. I'm sorry, the accounting profession is embracing technology very rapidly, but the CAs have to, like we, all of us in the meeting, we have to embrace that technology with the same pace. We need to adapt at using various accounting softwares, not just one software or two softwares. We have to be adept to use multiple softwares. And again, I'm going to come to the point where most of our principals and whosoever we were under for our articles training would have said, until your accounting is perfect, until your standards and law is commanded, you would not have a problem using different softwares. And I'm surprised to say that is true even in today's scenario. So, what do we understand with that? We understand that we are living in a scenario which is always and always the most important talent, most important tool is our proficiency, our technical expertise. So, there are analytical tools. There is a lot of data analytics tools that are available in the market. But having our hands on experience multiple times will give us the edge that how the information or the analysis that has been given to us by the tool has to be used in the professional world, in the market. How do we go to use that analytics? Because analytics is nothing but a deeper understanding of the information. It is just more information. The decisions have to be still taken by humans. Analysis do not provide you with decisions. So this is, I'm going to take you on a tangent here for 2 minutes because this is what happened to me as a newly qualified chartered accountant when I was very young in the first or second year. A lot of friends, maybe I should say, use the word friends, or maybe my peers who were qualifying after me a year or two later. So I introduced myself into practice from the day one. So I was a practicing chartered accountant from the moment from the word go, the moment I qualified. I applied for my membership with COP and I started my own practice. But many of my friends used to come to me for advice that should they practice or go into job. Now my answer was very simple. You do not ask for decisions to other people. Advice means you are looking for only and only. I'm sorry, I have some sort of cold. I just need 1 second. I apologize for the interruption for a second. I did not want to just, keep using tissues in front of all of us. Thank you. Sorry. All right. So let's come back to the point that many of the young members or young friends of mine used to come to me and say, okay, what do you suggest? Should I practice or should I go into job? I always used to say, I cannot take decisions for you. What I can do is I can give you my analysis on the pros and cons of both the decisions that you will take. I'll repeat myself. I can give you the pros of the practice that I've done. I can give you the cons of the practice that I've done. I can also share the pros and cons of going into service and also different industries based on the feedback that I've received from my colleagues over the years, from my friends who have been into industry for over the years. But I cannot take a decision for you. Same happens with data analytic tools. They will give you data, they'll refine the data, they'll give you more information. But what opinion has to be given of that information is totally your decision. Now we should not be. I don't know why when I talk to chartered accountants and some of us, I'm not saying all of us, many of us are rigid to technology that, oh my God, AI is going to eat up our jobs. The information is going to be eaten up by machinery. So, medical profession has suffered from machines way before you even started looking at machines. Today, when you go to a hospital, whatever hospital you're going to, the most important, I think, the most important quality of a good doctor used to be diagnostics. That how good their diagnostics are. Because after diagnostics happen, a machine can, of course, lead you to the right treatment as well. The softwares can lead you to the right treatment. But it is the value of the human advisory, it is the value of the human's wit and his abilities, his experience, which cannot be replicated by a machine. So similarly, the analytical tool will just work like an MRI machine or a scanner, which the doctors have been using. Like for the test results, it is going to be like a lab test, and still the professional opinion will be limited and given by chartered accountants. What we need to do is we need to be excellent communicators, excellent analysts of the analyzed data, and need to have more responsible and sophisticated opinions. People are trying to take decisions based on the opinion of their chartered accountant. If you understand this statement, I promise you, you will understand the value of your job and you will understand that there is no recession in this profession because we are managing the resources that are already there. We're not scientists solving the problems of 10 years later. We're solving the problems of today. We are trying. The only thing that a chartered accountant is doing is not managing money, is not managing the law. He's managing the resources of a business, and on a macro level, the resources of the entire country or the world are being managed by the public accountant. You can call them chartered accountant, certified public accountants. They are managing the resources and the application of the resources. Let's move on. Now, there are other methodologies as well which will enhance the efficiency. There will be a lot of insights that will be available. This includes understanding the blockchain technology. If you understand that, um, if I have to give you more interest, because I can just generate your interest, the research and studies have to be done by all my friends who are listening to me. That for blockchain technology, you can always go into cryptocurrency that works on the blockchain technology. AI has applications in finance, which you can, of course, go into deeper detail. I have taken a session on Power BI on this platform itself. You will find it in the ICI TV somewhere. So data visualization techniques, these are Power BI and some softwares. And try and learn from authentic sources. Do not go in searching for courses which are on social media just claiming to teach you something, but they do not have an authentic organized pattern of teaching. They do not have a control over the methodologies that they're using. So rather wait or request institutions like Institute of Chartered Accountants of India to begin a course on certain softwares or tools. And I'm sure that the level of expertise that you will get, the level of control over the knowledge that you will get is what you require for success in the industry. So moving on to the other requirements of globalization. And I'm sorry this is going a little longer than I expected, but yes, I need to make sure that we are thorough with the information before we move to learning how new techniques and new modes have to be used. Moving on. So the ability to analyze large data sets, identify trends and draw meaningful conclusions from information is vital for practicing as a public accountant in future. So we need to be comfortable with high volume data and the use of tools to support our decision making and risk management. Again, the analytics is giving you some information, you are refining it further. The decision is still being made by the entrepreneur. So, of course, how well refined and how good opinion we give is what lies into our hands. The expertise of chartered accountants have to increase in the globalized environment. The risks that are being faced by the business are very complex, and there's a lot of currency fluctuation as well happening because when you're doing cross border, there's a lot of geopolitical instability, wars, or some other issues, and of course a lot of civil wars have been seen very neighboring to our country and somewhere around. So you need to have the expertise of risk management. So, like how to identify, assess, and mitigate these risks, and sometimes create them as opportunities. So how the risks have been created to opportunities? I'm sorry, go ahead, read the paper. You'll understand how some wars have actually benefited some other countries. And of course, a chartered accountant has to be equipped with the business acumen. What is business acumen? Something like strategic thinking, but a little different. So you're not just number crunchers, you are valued as business advisors. Please learn this. You are not looked as somebody who works only with numbers, but you are advisors of the business. You need to understand the broader context of the business and, of course, contribute to the strategic decision making. You have to advise clients on things like financial planning, growth strategy, because you need to have the business acumen for it. You need to have the strategic thinking for this purpose. You learn strategic financial management. Extremely sorry. You need to have a good grip over the strategy, hierarchy, and all the required terms in this business. Not terms, but maybe ARPU and ARPA, everything. You have to learn these. And of course, a huge control over your ethical consideration and professional conduct. It is paramount in an international arena where transparency and accountability is essential. CAs must adhere to professional code of conduct. You have to uphold your integrity and ensure compliance with all the relevant regulations and your ethical standards, and your ethical considerations have to be at the peak. There has to be continuous learning and professional development, of course. So to survive in the globalized environment, there has to be continuous learning and a continuous, application of those learning. So, of course, I know that we talked about cross cultural understanding, and the adaptability, which was a single word, has turned out to be a very deep concept and a very important part for you today. But I promise that because you've learned this, you'll definitely have a better advantage going into the arena going forward. Let's move on to the next part, which is what are the limitations of the traditional approach? There was a traditional approach of practicing as a chartered accountant that many CAs have heard this say that I have a system of working, this is the only system that I work with. I don't care what the client is looking forward to. I don't care if the client is looking for adjustments. I'm happy until that is an ethical dilemma. But the moment it is because of the way the service is being seeked by the client, I'm sorry, we need to change. We need to develop more. So, how is that development being looked for? And what do I mean when I say that a lot of development is required on our part? So, when I say that there's a lot of limitations, there's a lot of traditional approach, there's a lot of things that go into your hand in hand, and you have to completely understand that though that this process is good, though it looks more and more authentic and more like for many years the waterfall methodology has reigned supremacy. It's linear, it's sequential, with each phase dependent on the successful completion of the previous one. So in the earlier times, how CAs used to practice, and it's okay, not CAs, even software compliances, even IT, even machines, industry, everyone used to work like first the previous phase has to complete and it has to be completed successfully, and then you move to the next phase. But now, when you go to the production houses, everybody who's working with production companies, are they producing step by step or they're doing it sequentially? Are today are we not experiencing this today that many companies are producing on a constant level? So, moving on, projects were actually following a cascading effect. There was there were distinct stages like maybe gathering the information, then of course completing the information and then framing the right tools and then making the reporting and then going into audit. Like if I ask about auditing, many people will say the auditing is a very simple process. Sorry, it's very straightforward process that you have the meeting, you decide the scope, you begin with the auditing. So first you make the audit plan, first you make the audit program strategy, and then the audit plan is finalized. And of course, then ground level team is instructed, they conduct their testing, and they conduct their stuff, and then senior manager reports to it, and then finally we report back. But now audit planning and processing is a continuous approach. So you heard in audit, many of you who have qualified in the last 10, 20 years know that we talk about substantive procedures now. So what is substantive procedure? That makes the planning and risk assessment to be a continuous process. So you cannot say risk assessment is completed and now I'm going to the second phase. It is continuously going on as your audit proceeds. So this is how waterfall became a little obsolete. However, the reality is often diverged from significantly from the idealized model. So waterfall has rigidity, which is a very big drawback. There are unforeseen challenges which make the projects complex. They cannot be the projects cannot be carefully planned into a sequence. Any late discovery will make sure that because when you are going sequentially, then maybe we've assessed the risks for, let's say, we've given more efforts on assessing the risk completely so that we can end that phase. But when we realize there were new risks, our cost will be increased to a very high level. There are lengthy feedback loops, and sometimes very crucial deadlines are being missed because of that. The lack of flexibility meant adapting to changing requirements or incorporating new insight mid project. It is very difficult in the way that traditionally we have been working. Often it was impractical, which led to misaligned projects, misaligned results. And of course, the evolving needs of the market and the clients cannot be met in that fashion. So, what do you need today? So, sticking to solely on the sequential method in this fast paced environment is not at all a smart decision. Business always risks losing their competitive edge by failing to respond quickly to emerging opportunities and market shifts. And when I say business, I mean the business of chartered accountants. So I have a very keen sense of using the word business. I call my practice as well a business. When we're talking about growth numbers, that time I'm talking about business. And when I'm talking about knowledge accumulation, that's I'm talking about profession. But of course, at the end of the day, growth and competitive edge, every word has come into the place. How can I not call myself into business? So this is a business that I'm doing. So projects become outdated before they are even completed. For example, let me give you an example. I don't know how many of you have, but I'm sure all of you have heard about uh, issues like all of you have heard things like SOP creation, governance creation, framework creation. So many CA firms are giving services like wherein we create the entire framework of a company. Maybe, for example, today it's a very popular service, carbon credit framework, ESG framework, corporate governance framework, the corporate hierarchy, and everything, human resource framework. Now, when I use these terms, the truth is that if I am creating this framework today, I need at least 6 to 8 months to make a mid-size listed company's framework. If I'm doing a large size company, it can take up to a year and a half or two. Now, if I'm using a linear approach, the time which is being consumed is making my governance manual, is making my framework obsolete during the time it is being made. And of course, when I deliver it, it is obviously it is long outdated. So that is not what we are looking for today. We need to be more agile, and how to be agile, we will learn in the next part. Now we're coming to the most important part, which is the command board. But before we go to that, let us, first take the approach of the let's understand the approach of the globalization and the problem with the uh, current rigid methodologies. How do we tackle them with the agile methodologies? Actually, they're more adaptive, flexible, and they come with their iterative cycles, continuous feedback loops, And the emphasis is on collaboration and adaptability. So you have to collaborate. The team has to be one. There's no direct. You don't think of you as a reporting cycle that I will give instructions, the mid layer will follow, and the last one will just have to do what has been told. You're taking feedback continuously, and everybody is collaborating here. And the approach is flexible. So if somebody wants to take some step before the other one, they're allowed to because they're all spread across a board very finely. So I'll show you the slide. I'll show you a sample command board. This is how a command board looks like in an office. And this is how a command board is designed for an auditing firm. So it offers a very suitable framework for navigating the complexities and uncertainties of a modern project management. By embracing this development, focusing on delivering value incrementally, and prioritizing responsiveness to change, we can significantly improve our ability to manage projects successfully in today's world. So, I hope you understand now that what we are trying to achieve. I'm extremely sorry. I just have to make sure that there's some meetings cannot be, I have to just inform people sometimes. So sorry, apologize. So let us understand the command board. And many people ask me the question that what is the difference between command board and Scrum? Actually, there's not a big difference between them. The only difference is Scrum board is a little more rigid again. So it has only it is only mainly 3 or 4 traditional columns, which one will be what to do and what is in progress and what has been done. But here you have flexibility that in because maybe in my terminology, I think these are 2 more columns that I always need. That what has to be reviewed, because that is different from progress. Because reviews fall upon senior managers, partners, senior managers, and senior managers. Because of course, these tasks have a possibility of being a little more into delayed, because let's say if you see senior manager already has some tasks on his hand, so this he might take a day or two. Until then the other tasks should not fall prey to it. But what about the other tasks like the in progress? Of course we have to this is not how they look like. Usually what we do is we create a whiteboard in the office and we put on sticky notes. We put on a deadline or the priority as well. Priorities can be of course used by color coding it or any other way. So like example, let's say what is to do. So firstly, obtaining a client's bank statement, I'm saying it can be any clients. Like for example, I'm using 4 clients or 5 clients here. So maybe for client A, I am leading a bank statement. So I put another color, and this is a top priority because the task is approaching a deadline. So we put it a top priority. Now, reviewing the previous year audit files. This might be a latent work, so I'll put it L here, and it is for client B. Maybe we just need to review it, but the auditing has to be started in a month or maybe in a week's time. But it is important, so we have to put B here. And of course, who I'm assigning this tasks to is also important. If you see in progress, I have already assigned. So the to do is referring mostly to the unassigned cases. So the cases which are unassigned, this has to be cognizant by the assigning department. Maybe if I am the assigning authority in my office or maybe some other partner, they have to take a closer look at this one. All right. And maybe for client C, we have to prepare the audit approach. And for maybe A client, again, we are talking about the audit program has to be developed. And some other client, let's say Z, has to be sent a engagement letter. So this is how we have to start taking the approach. Now you see, people would say, well, how a small board is going to change how our office operates. Well, let us take it into a format in which everybody understands more clearly that the way you are approaching work is exactly how the uh, the approach of your work defines how your performance is going to come out in the end. Maybe if you were defining it in a key task that 1, 2, 3, 4, you had a sequential format in your office, you might have been doing something or the other. Some way or the other, you were creating some sort of a board, some sort of a progress chart has been always kept inside the office. But does that yield the results that you're looking forward to? can be a yes or no answer. So maybe command board does not seem very exciting right now, but once you start using it, I promise you, you will come back to me, and you will definitely have positive effects of it. So, for example, these are unassigned tasks. Now, let's move on to the in progress. And in progress, most of the tasks are high priority, but they've already been assigned. Usually, the team underneath will have their own scrums, their own boards, their own progress tally, and they will be keeping a good track of the entire, entire entire progress of their own individual tasks. So let us understand the other parts of it. Just give me 1 second. All right. So moving on. So example, I have already assigned this to audit staff. Now maybe some have been assigned to the senior manager, audit staff, audit staff. Now we cannot just use the word audit staff. We have to assign it to the particular person, staff number, maybe particular teams. This is just a sample to understand how a command board looks like. So, what I have to say is, at its core, command is a visual system for managing workflow. It's like a whiteboard or a digital board. It has to be divided into columns, of course, representing different stages of project, such as which we already said: to do, in progress, review, done, and blocked. So each task has to be represented by a card. So what I'm using, which you already call as cells, here they are called cards. That's why I said sticky notes. So maybe cards. You say everything is a different card in itself. That is why I have used color coding. That it is a different card. It's a different task. Every task is separate and distinct to itself. All right. And of course, you have to move this card across the board. Now that's the important part. Why am I saying if you're using a digital board, fine, but honestly, using magnetic stickies or maybe sticky tapes is so more satisfying because I'll give you the example. For example, review, when you assign it, it goes into in progress. For example, it goes to audit staff, it is in progress. Then automatically this card will shift here. Automatically this card will come here. And of course, when this is done, of course, this will be removed ultimately. Okay, for example, they send the engagement letter to the client. I assigned it to one of the partners. Sorry, I assigned it to one of the senior managers, then partners, and then of course it comes here. To that sort of satisfaction, this offers immediate clarity, and the clarity is on the status of every task, identifying the bottlenecks, and this enables proactive management of resources. So, moving on, if I talk about Kanban for chartered accountants, it can be incredibly beneficial in managing diverse tasks, such as tax preparation. Also, you can use these in auditing, it can be used very well. And of course, financial reporting and client consultations as well. By visualizing the workload, teams can identify and address potential delay proactively. For example, a particular a particular stage has a large backlog. What maybe the to-do list has a very big backlog here. Here we have approximately, let's say, 15 cards already. For the day, 15 cards have already been assigned. I should use the eraser for one moment because now I've cluttered the board very well. Give me 1 second. Just a second, I'm just trying to clean it up. I'm not sorry. I'm not able to clean it up. The Zoom is updated. I'm not able to use it properly. I'm so sorry. Okay. I think I have a better option. Okay, there we go. This will go away any which ways. Good. So maybe let's say there are 15 cards in the to-do list. So when there are 15 cards already, the visualization of the impact, the visuals which everybody will see, will actually tell them that this is the part which requires addressing. Okay. So when somebody will notice that there is a lot of delay in a certain task, just a moment. I'm so glad we're not in the room because now everybody will started hooting by now. Thank you. Yes, I found my tools. Moving on. All right. So the second thing was that it can, of course, the clutterness of the board, the number of cards on one part of the board will tell which person has the responsibility. And of course, somebody can actually visualize and they can take actions if it is on their part. So there is obviously there can be potential delays. For example, the audit activity or the task which is in progress. A lot of tasks are on audit staff. Let's say these cards are longer and these are approximately 15 cards. And the senior managers have only one or two cards against their names. So you might assign a few senior managers to these tasks. Or maybe one of the partners can actually come in and say that, of course, I can hire more staff, or maybe we can have some staff on a contract basis, and they can actually take care of the the flexibility. So there's a flexibility there, and of course you can have additional resources, more resources, less resources. Maybe you see a lot of clutterness, and then let's say we assign every staff a card color, and they do not have a lot of work to do. I'm saying partner because that's my position, so I'm just trying to demean that. I'm not trying to make fun of the other staff because they might listen to this webcast and they might be offended. So maybe that I have less work. Maybe when we go into the hiring of the partners, we consider that there's not a lot of work that falls upon the shoulders of the partner. Now let's turn to Scrum. Scrum is a more structured framework. It has iterative cycles which are known as sprints. For example, Scrum is only designed for 2 or 4 weeks. So each sprint focuses on delivering a specific and incremental piece of work. And a key element of Scrum is daily stand-up meetings. So there's a brief check-in where team members discuss their progress, identify their impediments, and coordinate their efforts. This fosters a lot of collaboration and early detection of problems. So when I'm trying to say Scrum, the board will look very similar, but the reality is scrums will be created by these people. So, for example, they have a task. It will be for a limited time. They have a 3-layer card or a 4-layer or a 5-layer card, whatever they're making, and that is just designed for their work. And once that task is finished, they will put that to an end, and that scrum will end. It can be advantages for managing large and complex engagement. Maybe for your largest audit or your very big project, maybe financial restructuring, maybe creating of frameworks. This nature allows this nature allows for regular review, adaptation. A lot of risk is minimized for significant deviations from and the intended outcome. If there's a lot of significant deviation from the intended outcome, the risk can be, of course, reviewed earlier in the stage. And furthermore, the emphasis is on collaboration and communication, which strengthens team dynamics because you're already having a daily stand-up meeting, or maybe some other discussions are happening and how exactly this will be progressed. So this ensures that everyone is aligned on objectives and priorities. While both these are valuable tools, they have a different approach altogether. Uh, Command is more continuous flow and there's a visual management. It is well suited for managing ongoing tasks. So maybe daily level, it has to be there on the office every day. There can be changed priorities and everything can happen. But Scrum is time boxed iteration. So the sprints are very important. In Scrums, you use Scrums for a regular basis. It is for a structured process, so it makes it more suited for complex projects and well-defined deliverables. So there has to be a deliverable of a Scrum. Scrum has to come to an end, whereas Command has to continue. Like it's an ongoing cycle. So the adaptation of Command or Scrum, both of them, requires a change in mindset. Right? It is a change in mindset which is required from these boards, and of course, a lot of collaboration is required, a lot of transparency and continuous improvement. However, the rewards of using these boards are substantial. If you want to start using it, try them because it will enhance your visibility. Project will be visible to the entire team. The communication will definitely increase. The culture of continuous improvement will, of course, foster in this. And these methodologies will empower the chartered accountant to deliver the delivery of exceptional services. A lot of efficiency will be there, and a lot of effectiveness will be there. And of course, this is extremely suited for just a moment. This is extremely suited for today's dynamic business world. Now, when I look at now, let's introduce the how is iterative development and collaboration flexibility? How is continuous improvement and customer focus related? And how what mindset are we developing? Um, Agile is not just a set of tools. Let's understand. I give you Kaban. You can use Power BI. There's a lot of softwares in the market. Everything is available, but that is not what Agile is. Agile is a philosophy that emphasizes on iterative development. It's a philosophy that also emphasizes on collaboration, a lot of flexibility, continuous improvement, and it is to be customer centric. A lot of customer focus, client focus is required. It is about embracing change, adapt quickly, and deliver value. Every step has to deliver value. Instead of using a rigid plan, you have to encourage a flexible approach that responds to the evolving needs and, of course, the unforeseen challenges. Now, of course, into the core of principles, the first principle is iterative approach. Then there is collaboration, flexibility, continuous improvement. So the core principle is firstly iterative approach. Instead of tackling a massive audit or a project all at once, understand iterative approach. So I see this is excuse me. So I see a certain audit. I do not approach it all at once, but I break it down into smaller manageable iterations or sprints, like tackling simple tasks like verification of inventory, verification of fixed assets. I task the in sprints, which were used for, of course, the scrums. This will allow for a regular feedback. The detection of issues will be very early. The correction course will be very quick. And imagine auditing a company's financials instead of a year-long process. We might conduct phased audit, reviewing specific areas at different intervals. There will be frequent checkpoints, which will allow for uh, adjusted practices, or maybe adjusted audit processes or audit methodologies based on the initial findings. So we're making more findings, and then we're adjusting the audit methodology program, or maybe the approach of an audit is being regularly updated. Then, of course, second is collaboration. It is paramount in agile environment. There has to be open communication between team members, which is non-negotiable. That team members have to openly communicate with each other, and of course, the other stakeholders have to be in constant collaboration and communication. So it ensures everyone is on the same page, issues are being addressed, and it has to be proactive. It is not something which we are doing in a reactive form. It has to be proactive. Daily stand-up meeting, regular sprint reviews, and of course, post-project retrospectives are crucial for maintaining the vital communication flow. Then we talk about vital skills, which are active listening, clear communication, and we have had multiple webinars and seminars on these topics in the BSEC, and maybe you can also read on that. And of course, these are the skills that are more important than they seem like. They are less valued, but they are very, very important, very crucial for your success, very crucial for any organization success. The flexibility is the key. Uh, the methodologies will enable you to adapt to changing circumstances. You can incorporate new information, adjust your priorities as you need them, of course. There could be unexpected events or changes in client requirements that has to be handled seamlessly. The disruption has to be minimized, and of course, the project has to remain on a track. So, when I talk about um, continuous improvement, this is the center of the agile mindset. So, regular retrospectives, which will allow us to reflect on the work, on what worked well, like what was going on good for us, where we were making progress, what was going into the what was in the right direction for us, right? So you can, of course, what was not going in our favor and how we can approve, how we can improve and approve well, and what process can be approved for future projects. This commitment to constant refinement ensures that a lot of efficiency and effectiveness is there and consistent improvement is seen in our tasks. All right. So we've already talked about these techniques, but when I always fall back upon Kanban, Scrub, all the visual representations of workflow. They actually do not just allow us to track progress; they allow us to identify bottlenecks. They prioritize tasks effectively. Scrum is a framework for managing complex projects using short sprints, meaning there are regular meetings to ensure continuous feedback is there. There is a lot of, there are other things which you can talk about here, which is project management softwares like Jira, Sana, Trello. So these provide a lot of centralized task management, communication tools, and there are progress tracking capabilities are there in them. We must leverage data analytics to gain insights into our own process, whatever process we are following. And of course, measure efficiency and informed decision making is the key. For example, I will now take you to a certain case study. Okay. And we will take sample names. These companies do not exist. And I'm just making these names up from the names which I have on my screen. Okay. I'm sorry to my event enablers, but that's what you get when you're event enablers. We can actually take your names in between and we can actually have we can actually have an example in you. So, for example, the chairman, sir, Dinesh Jain has a company, Dinesh Jain and Company. It's a mid-size accounting firm. I'm sorry, he might have a bigger firm, but I'm taking my example. So they are specialized in audits of privately held companies. Privately held companies, private limited, no investors, held on by family members and stuff. Many of us have seen those companies. So they are facing an increasing pressure. The nation company is facing an increasing pressure to deliver audits faster. There has to be a lot of efficiencies to be there, but the quality is not to be compromised. They have a traditional approach which has led to delays a lot of times. Rework has to be done. Deadlines have been missed in past due to unforeseen issues, of course. Some issues were discovered late in past, and the client satisfaction was declining due to slower turnaround times. Now, what is the solution? Firstly, they adopt a Scrum framework for their audit engagements. So large audits have to be divided into manageable sprints, maybe two-week sprint each, 1.5 week sprint each, 10 days sprint each. So they can focus on delivering specific projects within each sprint. So for example, if they've did 10 day sprint, they can actually focus on delivering this 10 day sprint. If they've done it in 7 days, maybe they have a 3 day advantage. Somewhere they make a 2 day delay. This will be managed amongst it. Daily stand-up meeting will ensure that they have a clear communication. There's an early identification of potential roadblocks, of course. Regular sprint review will provide opportunities for the client feedback and, of course, the course correction. Now, what are the results of what all this has been done? Now, it's very easy to say that okay, this is how sprint worked, Scrum was adopted. Now, the reduction of completion time. If you will try to adopt Scrum from today itself, I promise you that in a long run, your completion time will be reduced by an average of 20%. So the firm will have to the firm can take up more clients without increasing staff. So a lot of efficiency is being hampered just because of not having the visual aid, not having the visual representation. The client satisfaction is improved because there's a faster turnaround and it increased the client satisfaction. So better feedback, a better word of mouth, and a better business for yourself. A team collaboration will it will reduce your attrition rates. Less people will leave you. More people will want to be there and work with you longer. So this is how Scrum works. This is how the Scrum has been satisfactory for a long time. Now, there will be a lot of issue detection. So, the iterative nature of the process will enable early detection and resolution of issues. So, it will prevent a lot of costly rework which is done later on. So, do we understand how a mid-sized CA firm can also benefit from the framework? We don't have to think like, okay, whatever you're telling, sir, you only talking about big firms and only big audit assignments can apply these things. I'm sorry, if you want, you can apply these to tax audits as well. Not all your staff is trained upon all the things that are being done during the course of the tax audit, but you definitely can make a scrum. You can definitely assign names, you can definitely assign cards to somebody who can conduct one part of the job, and their abilities can be fully utilized. Until you do it, you never know it, right? So maybe there are multiple people who can do it, but somebody has a better knowledge of it. Maybe you can ask them to do their part and spend some time reviewing the part which has been done by other people, and it can give you better and more plausible results that you've been looking for all your time. So there's a multiple ways of looking at an issue, and of course, this is how things work. Moving on, let's move on to your favorite part. I'm sorry, I don't know why, but my fellow accountants love the taxation season. So, how can this be applied to a tax season? Give me 1 second. So, I'm talking about, let's just take an example of a small individual tax returns and small business tax preparation. So there'll be a lot of intense workload. I'm sure many of you will agree. I don't know what kind of an audience I'm dealing with here. I'm so sorry. So I'm just trying to give examples of the kind of audience that we interact with on physical seminars. So there will be a lot of intense workload during the tax season. Often there will be a lot of burnout among the staff. There will be a lot of missed deadlines, and the existing process is a very ad hoc process, and it will not have a clear prioritization or workflow management. So how do you solve this problem? One problem I solved with the Scrum. Now let me try to solve this problem by a command board. So if you implement the command system, the there'll be a visual board to track the progress of each client's tax return through different stages. Data will be gathered, then preparation will be done, then review will be done, and of course, then at the end, filing and verification of the return is the last part. There will be a way to prioritize urgent returns, how to identify bottlenecks, and efficiently allocate resources. There will be a way of doing everything. There will be a project management software which you can use to track deadlines and facilitate communication between client and yourself. Now, this will result into a very reduced tax season stress. Of course, the stress of the tax season will be very low because there will be a better workload distribution. The stress on the staff will be less during the peak season, of course, because the workload has been distributed properly. And the on-time filing. I'm not saying the on-time means deadline which has been allowed by the department. You will have to create your own deadlines because you have a large workload that you're addressing in a very short time. So then, of course, there'll be increased efficiency that you will have because there's a visual workflow management. the overall efficiency, time wastage is reduced, and of course, that helps you to overall improve your efficiency. And then lastly, but there's a better resource allocation because the system allows for better resources, ensuring the staff that were working on the most important tasks were given priorities accordingly. So let's just conclude. When I said command board, when I say Scrum, I know many accountants have the feeling, okay, this is big stuff, this is big firm stuff. No, this is a stuff which is applicable from the smallest organization to the largest cat of the family. So when I say this, that you know, use the tools that are available in the market, allow us to get into your heads and prepare the mindset for a growth, prepare let us prepare you for upcoming challenges that are going to be there for you. So we are very very keen on that, and we are very clear about it that these are applicable to each and every one of you. Many people will say, I am a sole person in my organization. Okay, collaboration, teamwork, and these things will not be applicable for you, but at least the visualization will help you prioritize. And once you prioritize, you can gain more work, and of course, more work leads to more staffing, leads to more management. And we have to think of us as business owners. We have to think of ourselves as people who have to make a difference ultimately. All right. So I've already given you two examples. One was because of, and again, I used private held entities so that to make sure that you do not feel like that I am talking about big firms, big cases, because big firms and big organizations already understand the importance of these tools, and there are these tools already in place. You'll be surprised to know. But do you see whiteboards very commonly in bigger organizations that you're auditing, or maybe you visit for other assignments? Why are the whiteboards there? They're such big organization. I hope that they know what they're doing, because these things are important. Even in the startup culture, which is very common these days, and people respect them, people understand that they're the ones who are doing something off the league. But these standardized boards and these standardized card system are still more very popular into those organizations as well. So I'm going to take you to another example, of course. This will be my final example, and then, of course, I'll try to conclude what we have learned today. Uh, Firstly, let's take a firm which is providing consultation now. Financial planning, forecasting, consultation, these services. Maybe let's give them a service of portfolio management as well, because we're very keen on those services these days. So there's a difficulty, of course, to meet the client expectation for complex projects involving multiple stakeholders. And there's a lot of evolving requirements in these days. So there was the traditional project management approach often resulted in scope creep, missed deadlines, and client dissatisfaction. The problems are very similar, but this firm is not working on the traditional works. They are doing consultation, financial planning, portfolios, and everything. So they can adopt an agile project management approach using iterative development, frequent client feedback, because the problem is client dissatisfaction. And I said the scope creep was always there. The scope was not very clear between the two. So a lot of communication, a lot of iteration should be there, that you can iterate on the different levels. And of course, there has to be a frequent client feedback to ensure the project is always aligned with the client needs. A regular requirement of client meetings to review the project, discuss the challenges, and of course, make adjustments as and when they are needed. This approach will, of course, emphasize on continuous collaboration and communication, and as a result, the client satisfaction is bound to increase. All right, and this will lead to, of course, higher satisfaction, and of course, better communication with your client as well. Moving on, there'll be a lot of project risk will be reduced, because the iterative approach will allow for early detection and mitigation of the risk, because you're doing portfolio management, you're doing financial planning as well. As I mentioned, maybe there was one or two more problems that I mentioned in the beginning. And there will be a lot of improved project adaptability, because the agile approach will allow the firm to adapt to the changing client needs and, of course, unforeseen challenges in portfolio management, consultation, financial planning. There is a lot of changes happening on a regular basis. And then there will be stronger client relationships that you will have, because there is continuous feedback and a continuous communication loop that you've designed. And the collaborative approach will, of course, foster stronger relationships with the clients. What I've used, these three were simplified examples. Okay. I agree that the real world implication will be a combination of agile techniques. One will not be enough. In the real world, things will be more complex. It will require careful planning, adaptation of specific context of the accounting firm. Remember that successful agile adoption depends on strong leadership. So if you are the leader, you have to be a strong leader. There has to be a commitment from your staff and a willingness of all the team to continuously learn and evolve. So you are a professional is only as strong as their team is. There's no second thought that I have when I say this, that a professional is only as strong as their team. So nobody I think will disagree from me when I say this, that if your team is not strong enough, you are not the absolute choice of the, of course. So moving on, before I end to and I take to the I take my session towards the end, uh, because I have to conclude after that. I request if there are any questions from the event enablers or the participants, if they have any questions, we can address those questions now. I think there is. All right, no problem. Let me just start to summarize what we have learned today. So, of course, our journey has begun very early. Today, we started our journey with learning about the reasons why chartered accountants have to, why chartered accountants must. Give me 1 second. I'll just show you something. I'm trying to show you something. Able to show. Hold on 1 second. All right. All right. So. So we began our journey with the initial thought process, that what are the reasons that we are supposed to, why should I do this is the first question that most of you have. And of course, I told you that there is a lot of technological advancements, globalization, and regulatory shifts, and of course, the client expectation of the turnaround time. And this is the most underrated requirement of today, that clients are requiring us to, be more proactive. So we learned how the profession is being reshaped with technological advancements, and how that our globalization is exposing us to diverse accounting standards, and how we have to be culturally sensitive. We have to be very adaptable to different economies, and the regulatory shift, constant learning requirements, and of course, the client's expectation of a faster turnaround time, how more transparent communication is required, how proactive problem solving is one of the keys today. what were the limitations of the traditional approaches that have been followed for years for maintaining and upkeeping of CA firms. There were rigidity, there was a lot of inflexibility, and a lot of delayed feedback. So allow me 1 second. So moving on, that we then further discussed that what are the agile mindset, how iterative development has to be taken care of, what is collaboration, and how flexibility and continuous improvement, and how do we have a higher customer focus. Then we talked about the core principles, core agile principles, which are iterative approach, collaboration, flexibility, and continuous improvement, of course. And there were agile tools and techniques like Command, Scrum, project management software, data analytics, their usages. And then we talked about a lot of case studies and how agile is implemented in accounting softwares. I will definitely want you to do an exercise today. And because we cannot, we cannot have the physical experience of an activity, how about you guys can make a command board and email it to me? And I love to read from you. I love to see how your command boards have turned out. I'm not saying put on the tiles, put on the requirements on the top of it, but at least create that board. At least create your columns, your choice of columns, and accordingly, how exactly do you see and how exactly do you want to approach the technique and how exactly you finalize it. So that's it for the that's wrap up from me. But I will definitely I'm leaving some time for the question answers. But then I will need my core team to see if they have any questions that we can discuss. If we have allow me 1 second. Dinesh, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Do we have questions that we have to address?
अभी तक तो नहीं है.
Okay. No problem. Then we will just continue and we will move on to you know, let's talk about how to plan a small audit project. And I will try to do the activity for you, but you have to understand that this has to be done by you ultimately. So I'm using as blank sheet as I can get. So for example, what is the earlier approach that we have always been taught of auditing? So firstly, we have the finalization, which is the engagement finalization. We then move on to our risk assessment, and then, of course, audit planning. Then, after planning, we go to conducting of the audit, then collection of information, then, of course, analysis of that information, and then we draw conclusions, and finally, we go to reporting, and then we discuss our report with the client. Now, the problem with this traditional approach is just that the client gets to discuss things at this point. Maybe in this place, somewhere before reporting, when we are drawing conclusions, or somewhere here, we would have submitted in the queries, or anywhere between this process, or maybe after the risk assessment, the clients are very less taken into the loop. And this is a long cycle when we talk about the audit planning and programming. So rather, we start and develop into the new technique, which is one head will be to do. That means documentation is, let's say, given to one person, and the audit is already under progress. And maybe the documents pass on to the review stage, and this progress is continuously being scrummed and discussed and collaborated with the client on a regular basis. In these circumstances, it is more practical and more approachable that we can get better client satisfaction, and we can actually just a moment. Just a- So then the collaboration, and of course, when we go into scrumming and regularity, so we have already addressed that there is no rigidity in our action, there is no inflexibility, and the feedback is going RFT. The right first time you have the feedback. This is one of the ways you can approach the satisfaction. Just give me a second. Moving on. We definitely have discussed all the required annotations. Now, if we have to go into a lot of routine in AI and automation, um, I think we have gone through the most important parts very well and in very well detail. And we've gone into the depth of the requirements of globalization and how exactly we are trying to adapt to cross-cultural sensitivity. Now, I will just like to say, because we have additional time, so why don't I address an additional concern? We all know that the developed countries are considering, hiring accountants from across developing nations. Maybe Indian accountants are in high demand, but do we understand the implications in detail? Now, that is my question, and that is where I think most of us will find each other a little confused, and what exactly our approach should be is a matter of discussion. Now, the matter of discussion will definitely conclude in the direction where many people will think that how this collaboration is working for a few and not working for everybody else. Well, let me just clarify one thing for all of you, that it is not the approach, it is the first thing is the feedback loop and the collaboration. How exactly are you collaborating with the professionals of that part of the world? How exactly are you collaborating with the professionals around you? Is creating one of the most important, you know, feedback loops for you and exactly what is required. So I believe we have covered the core principles, the tools and techniques have been done in detail. Just give me last seconds, and I'm just trying to see if there's anything left that we can, of course, take another few seconds and we can, dive into that. All right. So to conclude the discussion, we've explored a range of topics relevant to the modern chartered accountant. Yes, that we focus on evolving requirements for chartered accountants, highlighting the need of strong communication, technological proficiency, and of course, data analysis. A robust understanding of the international standards. We have emphasized on not CS not being a merely technical accountant, but a strategic business advisor with strong risk management and ethical considerations. The importance of continuous professional development to keep pace with the ever-changing landscape, was also stressed. Today we have also, focused on project management methodologies, contrasting Kanban and Scrum. We examined how these tools can dramatically improve efficiency and productivity within the accounting firms. Uh, it is how visual workflow happens, how flexible solutions are offered, and managing of diversing tasks and identifying bottlenecks. However, Scrum is a very iterative approach with more time boxed sprints and daily stand ups. It is better suited for complex projects and it requires structured delivery. We discussed that there are potential benefits of hybrid approach, leveraging the strengths of both methodologies to optimize workflow. The overarching time theme both like there's a need of chartered accountants to embrace change and adapt the evolving demand of the profession. And of course, there is a traditional approach that has been followed from a lot of time. A traditional role has also expanded. There is a diverse skill set that is required now, more than technical and accounting expertise. The technology is very important to be embraced. Analytical capabilities have to be enhanced. Effective project management is one of the skills that chartered accountants are not these skills are not no longer optional. They are very much essential in today's competitive landscape. So moving forward, I definitely encourage you to consider the insights that can be integrated into your practice, explore the implementations of the command and scrum with your team, invest in continuous professional development, and to stay ahead of technological advancements in and the regulatory changes. So cultivate the necessary soft skills, particularly communication and cross-cultural understanding, that they are essential for the success in the globalized accounting world. By embracing these changes, you can position yourselves for continuous success and contribute significantly to evolving needs of the accounting profession. So that's all that I can say about the topic anymore, and I think I fall short of words from here. So I just would like to, welcome back the event enablers and feel if there's anything else that they want to discuss with me, I am available for questions and answers now.
थैंक यू सर। नकुल भाई,
Well,
बहुत बढ़िया आपने बताया। क्योंकि आज की जनरेशन में ऑटोमेशन डिजिटल जाना बहुत जरूरी है। हमें अपने बहुत सारी प्रोसेस को और कैसे बदल सकते हैं एआई के थ्रू, ऑटोमेशन टूल के थ्रू, और किस तरह से हमको डाटा से इंफॉर्मेशन निकालना है और मैनेजमेंट को उपयोगी हो। मैं अनुरोध कर रहा हूं हमारे सेक्रेटरी विकास भंडारी जी से क्वेश्चन आंसर कोई हो। हम अभी जैसे टैली से हम उठाते हैं डाटा या किसी दूसरे सॉफ्टवेयर से उठाते हैं, तो उसको इंटीग्रेशन कैसे करें सर?
so the integration is already available in most of the softwares.
हम्म
Because Abhi, you have billing softwares which are already even in Tally, if you're talking about it, Tally also gives you a mobile version now. For an additional payment, you can have a mobile version for all your clients. If they want to create an invoice through their mobile device, they can
हम्म
very well, create those invoices and they will be with cloud, they'll be integrated and you'll have the update. Now, real-time update has become the key to the going future, and
हम्म
that continuous, monitoring is what gives you the edge over everything. So Tally say data उठाने के लिए, I can just say that if you have to pick up the data and what reporting you're doing, I think most of the softwares today are integrated with Tally today in India. That is due to the due to the wide landscape of the software, and we have to appreciate that part. So if you create an XML file, you can of course upload it to most of the softwares for filing your tax returns, to your ROCs, to your tax audits. Everything can be done just in one Tally software. You take that XML, file your GST through Tally, or maybe the GST softwares also allow you to pick up data from Tally itself.
बट इनकम टैक्स में जहां तक रिफंड रिटर्न की बात करते हैं वहां पे टैली एक्सपोर्ट करने में वो फॉर्मेट नहीं आ पाता एक्सेप्ट जो चाहिए.
What I can say is, sir, I can connect with you personally. You can always call me. I'll show it to you on AnyDesk that how I import my Tally to my software. Someday we can we can have a Zoom meeting personally. I'll show
Yes.
you in private that how it can be integrated and how the information is passed on technically to the software as well. Because then I can also talk about the softwares that I'm using or not. Because right now we're on a webcast, I cannot name softwares for obvious reasons. I cannot, promote anything except ICI here. So we can talk about these things in person, and I can tell you that what exactly is the methodology that we've been using in the last few years.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Vikas bhai.
Thank you very much, sir. It has been such an honor to be part of this wonderful webcast on navigation change, eligible mindset for chartered accountants, organized by the Professional Skill Enrichment Committee (ICI). On behalf of the Professional Skill Enrichment Committee (ICI), we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our speaker, CA Nakulji Arora, for his enlightenment session. Sincerely thanks to the event enable from the Mansoor branch of CIRC of the ICI who enabled this webcast throughout. A wide round of applause and thanks to the organization Professional Skills Enrichment Committee ICI. Our today's speaker Shri Arora ji and other stakeholders make the webcast a memorable one. Finally, we would like to thank all of the present here and helping us make this webcast a grand success. Thank you one and all. Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
आपका ये सेशन बहुत अच्छा रहा.
Thank you.
और समित कुमार जी मिश्रा जी, आपको भी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कि आपके कारण से हम लगातार वेबिनार करके हमारे छोटे शहरों में भी हम ऑटोमेशन और टूल्स की बातें कर रहे हैं. और जैसा कि कंटिन्यूइंग प्रोफेशनल एजुकेशन हम सबको एक ही स्टैंडर्ड प्लेटफॉर्म पे खड़ा करता है. और अपॉर्चुनिटीज के बारे में नकुल भाई कुछ जो हो ट्रेडिशनल अपॉर्चुनिटी से हटके उसके बारे में अगर 5 मिनट आप बात करें तो हम बात हो.
Can tell you the opportunities in terms of other than traditional opportunities today, we have a very huge requirement of accountants who are skilled with the I'm not talking about taxation, I'm not talking about anything else but core business that we are expert in. The accountancy profession has a very positive news from around the world that the accountants in developed nations are not, of course, very keen to study accounting. Once they are not keen to study accounting, we have an opportunity to approach. But for that, how to grab those opportunities? Firstly, you have to get out of your comfort zone and start collaborating. Firstly, you have to start meeting people from different areas of life. And how can you meet different people? I think it's very easy to understand that you can only and only by attending international conferences, by attending international programs organized by the institute, we can connect to people. And other opportunities include that there is a lot to do in terms of the when you say AI and machine learning. Now, this is not an opportunity. This is an aid that is being given to the profession. You cannot practice in automation because many people think that automation will give you a new area of practice. No, whatever you're doing, you can use automation into that. But what all can you do? Earlier, maybe you were reducing yourself because you do not have the right command over the language, you did not have the right communication channel. But today, you don't need to hold back because of that, because now the automation and AI will take care of your communication channels and your finishing. If you can grab the opportunity, it is yours because the machines will assist you in processing the rest part. But what has to be key has to be your communication. Now, what I have said for an outsourcing, but how to grab it, you have to get out of your shell and get to meeting people from the area where the opportunities are. There's no point in, I'm not saying it is not useful. It has its own benefit when you collaborate with chartered accountants already, doing such projects. But how can we, go into knowledge process outsourcing? The need is not to connect to a person. For example, if I am doing this job, I'm just giving an example. If I am doing an outsourcing job, I am not very comfortable how much I can share because I have to grow myself. But who will give you the business is the one who needs that business. And how will you get to that person? Social media is just a tool, sir. You have to physically get into one-to-one interactions. And as much as you interact and you have a network, you'll get to those opportunities. And city size does not matter at all because ultimately they have to get a service from the internet IP. They don't care you're sitting in a small third tier city or the first tier. Well, maybe you'll have an advantage that a lower rent and lower staff cost will always, give you a better competitive edge over the big cities in that case. Because geographic location does not matter here. And you'll have a better staff retention as well. So this is a huge opportunity. And of course, you have opportunities to practice in the larger account segment as well, because we've already seen that how much the institute has been keen on ethical standards and how much they're keen on professional standards lately. That auditing will again be refined once again. That people who are very much eligible to conduct a quality audit will be able to conduct an audit in going forward. That's all that my response is, Dinesh. Thank you. I do apologize. I answered a little longer than expected, so I have a tendency to answer a
Would you-
little.
We are thankful to our today's resource person, CA Nakul Arora, for deliberating on the various aspects of AI and technology enablers, so that we have learned a lot from CA Nakul Arora on these various aspects of professional development and all these things. So that we are thankful to also the event enablers from Mansoor branch of CIRC of ICI. We are thankful to each and every person present over here for this live webcast. With this, we conclude the today's session. Thanks to all.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.